So now that we have learned about variables, let's go ahead and learn about the different types of variables that we can have in JavaScript. So if you want to follow along, I highly recommend that you go to the developer.mozilla.org page and look for the JavaScript data types and data structures page. I will include a link to this website in the description of this video. So let's go ahead and look at what are these so-called data types of JavaScript. So in JavaScript, there are 6 different data types that are primitive data types. And what a primitive data type means is that it is defined by the language and it's built in, right? So a non-primitive data type is the data type which is defined by the programmer. So these primitives that come with the programming language are the following. So there's Boolean, which is a true or false value. So you just said it's a true or false. Then we have null, which is a value which represents the absence of a value. So this can be kind of confusing, but we'll get to it in a minute. But null essentially means we have a variable, but we want it to be assigned to no value at the time because we simply can't find something in a database, or there's some other condition where we want to say that there is no value for this just yet. The next one up is undefined. Undefined is a little bit tricky in that it is very similar to the null data type, as they're very similar to each other. Now, what does undefined mean? Undefined means that the variable does not have a value yet, whereas null means that it has been assigned the absence of a value, which is called null in JavaScript and other programming languages. So as you can see right here, the null type has exactly one value, or null, and then the undefined type is a variable that has not been assigned a value, which has the value of undefined. So to any new programmer, these two are very tricky. I'll show you some examples in a minute and what can kind of help solidify what happens. So the next thing up is the number data type. So when we had my variable equals 5, that variable was declared as a number. Number type is interesting because in JavaScript we can represent both a floating point number, which is a number with a decimal point, and a whole entire integer, which is a number just like 5, using the same kind of data type. In other programming languages like Java, it doesn't really work that way. You need to have different data types for a floating point number and different data types for an integer. So if we look here at the number type, there's a bunch of really interesting computer sciencey stuff here. It is a double precision 64-bit binary format IEEE 754 value. What the heck does that mean? That means that integers or numbers in JavaScript have values between the following, which is 2 to the 53 minus 1, negative 2 to the 53 minus 1, and 2 to the 53 minus 1. So this is kind of complicated, and it goes into like a lot of computer science theory and into how numbers are represented in binary. So, but for you as a new programmer, all you really need to know is that there is only one number type in JavaScript, and we don't need to have any specific type for integers. It simply just says, okay, we're going to use an integer, and okay, you're fine. We'll get more into like where these things can be kind of difficult later, but just know for now that we can use decimal numbers and integers using the same type of data, using the same data type in JavaScript. So the next data type is a string. Now a string is really interesting because it is a very, very, very useful data type. So strings are like basically any text that you see on the screen. So it's a series of characters, and it's used to represent things like my name and other kinds of values like that inside of JavaScript. So if we look down here, a string type is used to represent textual data. It has a set of elements of 16-bit unsigned integer values. Now, each 16-bit unsigned integer value occupies a position in the string. So we will go more into this later and show how we can access different values inside of the string at their appropriate indexes, which is really cool. So the last one here is a symbol type. Now the symbol type is something that is new to this new version of JavaScript that is called ES6, ECMAScript Edition 6. So it is a unique and immutable primitive value that may be used as the key of an object property. So to a new programmer, this is a very hard concept to understand, so I'm not going to teach it to you just yet. When I do produce my ES6 tutorial, we'll go over symbols and how to use them properly. So the last data type that is part of JavaScript is an object. Now the object is really cool because it is a data type which is defined by the programmer. So there's a lot of interesting ways to do it, and we're going to go into that later, but I as a programmer can define a type like Andre's type, and then I can say my own functions and variables that I want to be part of that type. So objects are a composition of two other things which are called functions and variables. We haven't talked about functions yet, but we have talked about variables. So in my next video, I'm going to show you examples of how to use each of the different data types and what they look like, so that way we can kind of get a feel for what is going on in this JavaScript stuff.